Beam and Hinge, like Mr. Hooper said, is a web development company. It's right here downtown Columbia on Main Street, and they create really nice websites for all kinds of businesses. So right next to me is Dan Stanton, the CEO of Beam and Hinge.
Good morning.
And then Adrian Wetzel, who is a web developer. And then on my left is Mr. Craig Perry,
Hello.
who is over a program where Mrs. Adrian came through and found her job with Beam and Hinge. So, Mr. Stanton, I'm going to start with you. If you could tell me, how did you get into the IT industry, and what do you think led you to be the CEO of Beam and Hinge?
So Beam and Hinge is actually my second career, leading Beam and Hinge. I did 21 years and retired from the Army at the beginning of 2020. So a non-traditional path into web design and development world, and then took over Beam and Hinge. Beam and Hinge is now this year, 10-person organization. We were 5 in 2020, so we're growing. And we design and develop personalized websites for medium complexity clients that have high level needs. So a lot of professional service organizations, law firms, architects, commercial construction, a lot of nonprofit, some community foundations. We've got some government stuff, SC 811, South Carolina Forestry Commission, private high schools. So folks that are not the University of South Carolina, but also not a person that has a single pizza place and it's a Squarespace website. There's a huge swath in the middle of the market that was underserved, and Beam and Hinge fills that niche nicely. And one thing I want to hit is Beam and Hinge, while we have 3 of our 10 people are web developers, so computer types, I would call it IT adjacent, because true internet technology is an industry into itself that is more, in my Army days, that was its own world. And it wasn't a communications world, that was a networks and security and all that important thing. And that is a great career for some folks. For other folks that do web development, they're bringing creative visions to life. So if you look at Beam and Hinge, we have across our team, we've got some account managers who are very much dealing with driving project management and supporting clients on an ongoing basis after we launch their website. But then we've got some creative roles. We have content developers who are actually writing for clients and having those kind of fundamental high-level questions. Who are you? Why are you here? Mission, vision, values. Because to have a leader, it's got to have the words have to mean what the client needs them to mean. And then we've got a couple of full-time designers that start with a blank screen, if you will, and design that custom website and that we take through and run through the process with the client, make sure that it's going to meet and exceed their vision. And then that product goes into our developers, and then they start and I'll say this, they make it a reality. So I'm going to defer to Adrian to tell you about what he does, because when I did Turbo Pascal in the early 90s, this was not how the internet worked. We didn't really know that word yet. So, that is a world that changes. So Adrian, talk a little about it. Unless you have another question at this point.
You said you did 21 years in the military. We appreciate your time in the military, and ironically, it is Veterans Day Parade. So, what did you do? IT in the military?
I did not.
Okay.
I was my academic background was engineering from Clemson, but in the Army, I was a logistics and operations guy. So I am very lucky at Beam and Hinge that I've got some very talented communications and marketing minded folks, whereas I'm more of an operationally minded person. Mm-hmm. So I've got kind of a technical affinity where I can have the technical conversations with my developers, but I would not call myself a IT person in 2020.
Okay.
Like I said, of our 10 people, we have 3 of our 10 very capable technical developers, and like I said, they code and make the internet work and sing for our clients, where the other 7 folks in the organization much less.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not running. My core skill coming into Beam and Hinge was not a technical skill. It was communications, strategy, operations, and running.
So you appreciate the logistics behind how IT works. And then what led you to Beam and Hinge, or did you develop Beam and Hinge?
No, I took over Beam and Hinge. I took over in 2020. Beam and Hinge was founded in 2014.
Okay.
Beam and Hinge was actually founded as a sister company. Our sister company, Cyberwoven, was started in 2001. In 2014, they'd grown to where their core client was a 10-partner law firm, but it was the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So their systems were no longer well designed to support that middle swath of the market that needs a great holistic web partner, but doesn't need somebody that's going to build you the Department of Motor Vehicles website. So Beam and Hinge was born with the charge to stay focused on that medium complexity. Mm-hmm. And I actually just had many conversations with the founder.
Okay.
And the fact that just kind of my broad experience set. So like I said, for me, it's less about IT. It's more about having the context to sit and talk strategically with a law firm client, and then with a profit client,
okay,
and then with a state agency client about them. So I'm not talking about IT with them. I'm talking about their needs, their business.
Right. You're the organizer, the project managers. Okay. Well, great. So Adrian is next to Mr. Stanton, and she is a developer. So he mentioned designer came first, and then the developer comes next. So what is the difference between what you do and a designer?
The designer, after they talk to the account managers, they figure out, okay, what is it that you want the website to present?
Yes.
What energy do you want to give off to your customer? What's your brand? So once all that's figured out, then they create wireframes, and wireframes are basic. It will show, okay, here's the header, and then here's the contents with pictures, and then here's the footer. Mm-hmm. And once they decide, okay, I like these wireframes, then they'll take it to the designer. The designer is where the beauty truly comes in.
Okay.
The designer have impeccable taste. I can develop a website based off of the designer, but please don't ask me to design.
Okay.
I love it when they have it already figured out, because I know exactly what I need to do. But if you say, Adrian, just do X, Y, and Z, and you don't tell me how you want that to be displayed, that's a lot of gray area. And that's when questions need to be asked. It's like, okay, where exactly do you want it to be placed? Do you want this to be clickable? Do you want it to lead to another? It's a lot of that needs to be clarified. But the designer, back to the original question, mm-hmm. The designer, they actually bring it to life. And then they give it to the developer, and the developer actually makes it happen on the web. They code it so that it will show up.
So the designer is the creative part of what you see, and then the developer does behind the scenes, making it supported, basically. Okay, well, how did you get into Beam and Hinge?
Oh, wow. Thanks to Create Opportunity, because originally I went to Midlands Technical College for computer programming. Right. And one day I received a brochure in the mail, and they have this page saying, hey, there's Create Opportunity. It's a program for 6 months. If you finish the program, there will be a 2-year apprenticeship.
Okay.
And then the education is free. And I said, okay, this sounds too good to be true, I'll be honest. So I did some research just to make sure that this is valid. Right. And I taken their aptitude test, did their interview, and got through the program, and it let me in.
Wow. So what was that aptitude test like?
Arithmetic, reading, is not timed.
Right.
Let's see, multiple choice. That's the only time you get multiple choice in that program.
Puzzles. So you got some puzzles and problems.
Yes, a lot of problem solving, and also being able to detect patterns, because that's really one of the biggest things about web development and coding in general. Find the pattern. If you're able to detect the pattern, you'll be able to apply it and use it.
Great.
So, yeah.
Was the aptitude test heavy into IT kind of questions? Just like you said, reading, arithmetic, patterns.
Yes.
So Craig is the organizer of Create Opportunity, which is the program that Adrian completed, and he can tell you more about that.
Right. So actually, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I know that online meetings are not always a favorite, so I'll try to be wildly entertaining. So before I jump into Create Opportunity and not too fast, does anybody out there use DoorDash ever? Raise your hand or kind of give me a signal that you use. Blink twice, right? Blink twice if you use DoorDash, right? Yep. So most of you use DoorDash. I thank technology not because it's making the world a better place, but it allows me to sit in my flannel pajamas and order Taco Bell from my couch, right? Like it's fantastic. So what Create Opportunity does is train people who create things like DoorDash. And so our friends at Beam and Hinge, they focus on basically companies' websites and maybe some applications that go into those websites. But what we do is we train what's called a full stack developer. So as you are going through those career paths in information technology, what we train is software developers, but specifically full stack developers, which means those people who create what you see on your phone or what you see on your laptop. They create the websites, and then what we call back-end developers, and they kind of do all the magic that you don't see. So DoorDash is a perfect example. When you pick up your phone and you look at it and the screen pops up and you're looking at the screen, somebody designed that. It's basically a website optimized for a phone, and then you put your order in and you put your credit card in and your address in, and that's when the magic happens, right? So in this much time, your order goes to the restaurant confirms your order, your pickup and address goes to a driver, and all of that goes to your bank, who transfers money to DoorDash, to the driver, and to the restaurant, and then it shows up on your door in like less than 30 minutes most of the time, right? And all that is done by somebody who just coded a bunch of different lines of code and made that happen. Now, and we could go into wild technology out there that's, AI and some of these really cool things that your generation's gonna grow up with. And so, but Adrian, whose background was in music, right? Which is wonderful for any of you who love music and love art, and you're like, I couldn't sit at a computer all day. Same parts of the brain, absolute same parts of your brain. So our program does use a screening, training, and apprenticeship model. Screening is 90 minutes long, absolutely free. You can try 3 times. It's on our website, createop.com. And it's basic math, basic reading, and then a bunch of problems. I don't care if you know anything about computers. You do need to know how to turn your computer on to take the screening. That is the first test. So, but it takes 90 minutes. We get your results. We send you your results. If you meet a threshold, we move to an interview. And the interview is not like a dress up in your best suit and tie. It's like, hey, come as you are. I want to hear your story. Where are you from? What are your interests? What are your likes? What did you enjoy in school? What did you not enjoy in school? Do you have any work experience? And those aren't limiting factors. We just want to understand where you are and how we come alongside you. And then some folks out of those interview process move into training. Here in Columbia, it's at Midlands Tech for 6 months, 40 hours a week for 26 weeks. And then we do the 2-year apprenticeship.
What is that apprenticeship part like?
It's the best part of the program.
Where's she at now?
Adrian is in her apprenticeship now. He's been on the job for 6 months.
Almost.
Started 6 months.
6 months.
She got here in May.
Yep.
Great. So what's it like to be an apprentice?
I'm grateful. It's very exciting actually, because the program it delivered. 6 months, we go through the education, we go through the finals, the big final, and it truly does prepare the students to actually work and actually do the job and work on the AP test and to fulfill them.
And are apprentices paid?
Yes.
Okay. And I just wanted to point that out because not all internships are paid, but that is a requirement. To be an apprentice, you are paid and you are an employee. And so,
She has health care.
oh wow, all the benefits too. What do you like most about being a developer?
It's always different.
Okay.
Everything's different. Tasks are different. The websites are different. I love the problem solving aspect as well.
Okay.
I don't get bored.
Okay. Great. What's the most difficult part of being a developer?
Just a lot to learn.
There is a lot to learn. I'll say this, for most junior developers, and thankfully I was told this, so I try not to do this myself. Usually when they start off the job, it's time management issues. When they're given a task and then there's only a deadline that comes with that task. So the junior developer, they struggle with the task, and unfortunately they don't mention the struggle until like the day the task is due or the day before. And then the leader is wondering, why didn't you tell me? And maybe it was embarrassment or whatnot, but what I try to do instead is give myself a period of time.
Okay.
Like, give myself about an hour. After that, then I'll reach out to my lead and say, okay, I need help with this. I can move forward to this one. So normally that would be the hardest one, but I don't know. Nothing else comes to mind. Just time management.
So Adrian's one of 3 developers on our team. As she said, our newest, 6 months into a 2-year apprenticeship. What I will say is I have, of my 3 developers on the team, all 3 happen to have college degrees.
Okay.
None of those degrees are in IT.
Oh, really?
Our senior developer is a couple decades out of school. He went to school for design.
Graphic
And-
design?
Graphic design
Okay.
and visual design. I don't remember what degree we called it.
Okay.
Right? So, but the point was he learned what the work and started doing websites 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What he was doing 20 years ago is not what he's doing now. I joke that I did some Turbo Pascal in high school. There's a way of thinking, and that's what Craig was kind of talking. The desire to solve a problem and figure something out. But one thing I see from the outside looking in, my 3 developers, is what leads them to succeed is they're lifelong learners. Because the internet today is not going to be the internet 3 years from now.
Yes.
So a music degree, a design degree, a background in finance, none of those things are coding, HTML, JavaScript, and doing CSS, and doing all this stuff, all the acronyms and platforms we're working with today, but a mindset to figure it out and to understand how it fits.
Right.
Because I would say the biggest difference between an apprentice and senior developer is the senior developer has built a canvas of knowledge to see how all the different problems fit. So Adrian is still very much, we've talked about this, she works on an island at a time, but the canvas is still being sewn together
Right.
and put into something to have kind of a holistic understanding. What's nice about her opportunity at the Hinge, because in the world of the internet, I'm going to do Apple's website. I'm going to do Clemson's website versus I'm going to do this 10-partner law firm's website. It's a bite-sized chunk of the internet. She's got to see in 6 months multiple projects cradle to grave where she did the whole thing. She did it with help. She did the first one slower than she did the third one, but got to learn and do the project. The product that we ended up with is to the standard of the product. She did the whole thing.
Right.
So very much a huge opportunity. The key to short-term success is to drink from a fire hose and just love the challenge. And the key to long-term success is not to declare the way you want to do it. It's once free, the way it's done.
Right.
That's not, be it on this side of the programming world where you're making websites or communications, operations focus, or the other side, you're doing cybersecurity, which is not what we do.
Right.
But that's the same sort of thing, because the security risks in today's world
Are different. Yeah.
are going to be different, because as soon as they figure these ones out, so this will be fun.
Yeah.
So U.S. News and World Report is a gigantic news group, and they rank things like best colleges in the U.S., best jobs in the U.S., and in 2022, they ranked software development as the number 5 job in the nation, In 2023, they ranked it as the #1 job in the nation.
The number one.
The #1 job in the nation. The truth is, because what we see in almost all industries, they are transitioning their mindsets from being like, well, we are a tractor company, or for example, Lowe's Home Improvement. You've all probably been to Lowe's with your parents, and it drives you crazy because it's not the best way to spend your Saturday. They no longer see themselves as a home improvement company. They have changed their philosophy to be a technology company that focuses on home improvement. And so what we see is every industry is embracing that they have to have their own software, they have to have their own website. So almost all these companies you see out there, if they don't do it themselves, they do it with companies like Beam and Hinge. And so the larger the company, the more they invest in that technology. So I was at Lowe's Technologies, and they're developing smart glasses that allow them to look at a wall of supplies and decide, well, this is in the wrong place, or we need to order 7 more of those. And that's all been coded by someone. So absolutely, this field is not going anywhere. The average salary nationally right now is about $120,000 a year. And in our region, which is a little lower than the average, we see folks starting around $45,000 through an apprenticeship, or if they come through with a 4-year degree, they're probably starting closer to $70,000.
Right. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're going to need technology. And I wanted to go back to what you said about Turbo Pascal. What? I don't even know what it is.
The point is, nobody remembers.
Yeah. So you studied IT at Clemson?
No, that was high school. That was the point is that's a language that nobody's using anymore.
Right. And I wanted to kind of re-emphasize.
The reason I brought it up is the thing that is the same is there's a way of thinking about code, because it was still just telling the computer what to do.
Right.
So and I think that's what Craig's kind of aptitude test gets after, is finding folks that have an aptitude to think about problems the right way, take something that's chaotic and put it into some sort of linearity and order to be able to do that. So, the piece that is applicable is I did some programming, and it's not what I did. It wasn't a career.
Right.
I just referencing an old thing. But once you kind of thought that way, you can think that way in the future. So when I'm talking with Adrian or her peers about some problems, hey, I like to make jokes at my own expense and see if they need me to pull some Turbo Pascal out and help solve the problem. They've yet to say yes. But it's that mentality, that desire to solve a problem with this guy is really the type of person that does well. Just comes in with a hunger to learn. And then the other piece to hit on, I don't know if we've hit on it directly, we've kind of applied it, but it's the human component. Because Adrian's not working with, you're getting some mentorship from a coder or a developer. Everybody else you work with are explaining problems in non-technical terms. So you've got to be able to translate. So there's that human component, those soft skills, the communication aspect, to be able to digest from the non-coder what you've got to do, go solve it, and then communicate back to that person, because 9 times out of 10, the developer's not the one in the client showing how the thing works.
Right.
So, because we can't afford that. We gotta keep making magic happen.
Right.
So there's different people.
So your skill set and what type of person you are, being able to problem solve and communicate effectively, is more important than having a Clemson degree or a degree from college. As long as you have, those kind of skill sets to be able to problem solve, and the desire to continue learning as IT continues to evolve.
That degree from Clemson is a way for us to find that person, but that's why the work that Craig over at Create Opportunity is doing is so important, because it's a whole new way for us to find that person that can be a good fit. Stacy worked with. We're very lucky.
Starting salaries here in the Carolinas with a 6-month certificate like our program, the lowest I've seen our students make is $45,000. We have had some students with additional training during their apprenticeship make upwards of $60,000 because they got other certifications while they were apprentices. And the more certifications you get in this field, the more value you have to an employer, and they'll pay you more. but on average, you're looking at 120,000. Most people, it takes 5 to 8 years to get there. The highest I've seen is well up into 300,000, but usually that's a higher degree, lots of experience. You're looking at 15, 20 years of experience, and you're working on cutting edge technology. But those jobs exist, or those are people who have moved into executive roles. And most of the executives I know who work in tech don't have a background in tech.
Right. They work their way up.
Right. They're an expert in their field, and they've learned to incorporate tech into their expertise.
Right.
Go into a lot of tech companies, and I'll talk about this. So this would be considered a small company.
Okay.
Now, this is an interesting thing, and what we see in the tech world is a lot of times there's shared space.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a family of tech companies here. We've talked about Beam and Hinge and their sister company, CyberWoven. They are inside this building, and one of the things I find in the tech world is they love coffee.
I do too.
So most of the tech companies I go to, regardless of size, are these wonderful coffee areas where people can socialize, meet. So you don't see a rigid structure all the time in these companies. You often find that they will have loose time where folks can just go off on their own. If they want to sit in a nice sitting area, like our friend Lauren over here, who is she looks very techy right now in her comfortable chair with just her laptop. The thing about this job is that laptop, wherever that laptop goes, that's where your job goes.
Right.
You don't have to be anchored to the seat. What you do see is, I don't know, for Beam and Hinge, you guys come in like as a team once a week.
Well, what you'll see is we can walk around and see a couple of different desks. Beam and Hinge is hybrid, so it is exactly like Craig said. It's that laptop. So on a day you're going to be in, you sign up for one of the cubicles, desk spaces, or a common space, which is great because that means the space can adapt to what you're going to do. Schedule a meeting for 4 people in a small room, or schedule a desk just next to somebody you're going to kind of collaborate.
So if you'll do a quick scan, you'll see kind of this open workspace. Hi friends, sorry to interrupt your work. This open workspace, and what you'll see how it's designed so folks can collaborate across their work areas and together. So we'll go down this way down to the Beam and Hinge area.
So in there, we have someone privately making the internet. And over here, we have a couple of our team members. But again, it's like we said, it's very flexible space for folks to be able to communicate how they need to with each other. But again, they all have their laptops. They can bring their world with them back.
So what you're going to see, this is Hillary. She's a very senior, experienced developer, and as you can see, she's sitting in a beanbag chair, working right now. Like I said, it's the most mobile job you'll ever have. And this is a collaboration room. As you can see, we have these wonderful desks. We have gigantic screens where you can bring in remote workers. And then we have boards. All my drawings are still there. We have all these screens. There's so much collaboration that goes into this. It can be done in person, it can be done online, and then folks kind of go off and do their work. But it's not uncommon to see somebody working on the computer and they'll quickly jump into a one-on-one call to work through a problem, clarify a requirement, clarify a request. So although you are on a computer all day, you have lots of human interaction.
Okay.
So for my introverts and extroverts, neither one of you should shy away from this because I think it actually brings both those worlds together.
That's a good point to
You're
make.
such an introvert, right?
Yeah, I'm about to say now.
But you love it.
But I love it. Yeah, it's a lot of doing your own thing, doing the work, building things, being on the computer, but then also interacting at the same time. So kind of really gives the opportunity for both being an introvert or an extrovert, kind of whichever you prefer.
And that's it. There's no like, you ever watch like Micro's Dirty Jobs and you can make a 30-minute show about a job? That's pretty much it on software development. You basically, your lifestyle becomes a bit of your work. So those people who want to be global nomads and travel the world and develop, that's a possibility.
True.
That's absolutely a
Because
possibility.
IT is the same language in China, right? And Africa and around the world. Yeah.
Coding languages are the coding languages are the coding languages.
Right.
And so interesting how they kind of become the common language. What you will see internationally is that most developers learn to speak English or do speak English in order to collaborate.
Wow.
Or because they've come up in the tech world, and the tech world is wildly dominated by the English-speaking languages, at least
Right.
coding, that most of the collaboration is done in English. But it's not uncommon like Ukraine at one point was a gigantic software development hub for its conflict. And so, right, you have those kind of hubs around the world where lots of interesting things happening unique to that country.
Someone asked, do you offer internship or is it just apprenticeship?
So, and these words are really fun. I think we wanted into too. Often we see internships are associated with degree programs. For universities and colleges, and usually they're very short, anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And what we see different in the apprentice, and it's less on the job training. They tend to be unpaid. It's kind of expose you. Whereas an apprenticeship, it's going to be a great, more hands-on, longer duration. So like our apprenticeship is 2 years long. Some apprenticeships might be as short as 6 months long. The whole intent is to get you into the job, give you responsibilities that are yours, and you start to develop in that field. And so ours is an apprenticeship, but there are IT and tech internships all throughout the city here.
Right, and it's paid.
It's like, she's in an apprenticeship role, and she's been here 6 months, and she's already delivered on like three full websites already. So,
Great, awesome.
And so one of the things you can do is you can find internships, and this is kind of the part of the year. It's worth noting. It's usually this time of the year, right before Christmas, that companies are seeking interns for summer. If you wait until June to start looking for internships, they're probably full.
What is the youngest person that could potentially work at Beam and Hinge or be an apprentice at Beam and Hinge?
I would say that at Beam and Hinge, it would depend on the person and the situation. So I don't think I don't have a written policy on the youngest age.
Companies will hire in accordance with state law.
Okay.
And so I don't know what that exact age is, but you would have to be certified, which you can get certified prior to 18 through various programs. For the Create Opportunity Program, you have to have a high school GED or equivalent to start our program. And so we have accepted 17-year-olds, but they have to be 18 before we place them due to state and federal laws on some of the funding that we're doing.
Okay, right.
So in general, you're looking at age. Looking at age. The youngest that we have in internships right now are 19 years old. They started our program right out of high school in 2022. So yes, I had 2 2022 graduates immediately start our program. 6 months later, we had them in apprenticeships. All of them are in government apprenticeships, so in government agencies working.
And you said they're making around $45,000?
Most of those folks are making around $45,000
at 19.
So there's, we call it non-linear progression in the education world. So if you come right out of anything else and come straight to us, you're going to get a continuing education certificate. That's just a certificate telling employers this is what they've been trained in, and that is from an accredited institution. And then that also has, you can get a 2-year degree through the tech college also, or you can get a 4-year degree through other institutions. And we always encourage folks to be very cautious. A lot of programs will promise things, but make sure you're only working with accredited institutions that are recognized by the state.
And does Create Opportunity guarantee an apprenticeship after successfully completing the program?
We stay with it. The fastest I've had people placed is before they graduated. The slowest it took me was 2.5 months. And it was just when we had this economic cooling this year, it took me a little longer to get everybody in place, but we had everybody placed within 2.5 months.
And the certificate program is 6 months.
6 months.
6 months. So not a degree, a certificate that takes 6 months. And then there's almost an immediate job, basically.
Yeah, and our certificate's worth 9 credit hours towards a 2-year degree at Memphis Tech or at one of the technical colleges in the state.